Don't do that.
So he's an area director for the guests. So he manages around 3 to 4 clubs around Whitefield. And as you know, all the terms are almost coming to an end. So this will be our session, my session as the VP Education. The last session as VP Education.
Oh, is it?
Yes. And then Apur will be the next VP Education. And we have Swapnil, we have so many new people coming up taking up roles. And even the president of Toastmasters, Ganesh, he unfortunately told me he has to travel to Chennai for personal reasons, so he's also not there with us today. But yeah, since we are there and we have speech and we have Toastmasters Shashidhar who has prepared a lot of great table topic sessions to keep filling with our minds. So yes, we are hoping to have a great table topic session and great speech by Sachin. So to just give the basic rules of Toastmasters, please not use topics such as sex, politics and religion so as to not intimidate others and hurt their thoughts. And also please do not side talk while people are speaking here. And finally, please do not step out when somebody is talking. Once there is a transition between one person and another, you can take your moment and please turn off your mobile. So these are the basic rules. So I hope you have a great session. We usually have around 15 to 18 people, but I'm not sure. This has been like a very busy week for most of the members. So yeah, so that's it. So since we don't have the president as well, so I'll only take up the presiding officer's duty to introduce the guests. So Sarthak, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Sarthak. Hi everyone, I'm Sarthak. I'm an old friend of Francis, and I decided to join as a guest today to sort of see how this operation works and maybe take some insights. Thank you.
Yes, so next up we can have, sorry, I forgot your name. Amog coming over and giving a quick introduction.
My name is Amog. I'm from Visakhapatnam. I just found Toastmasters Club that we could improve our communication skills and leadership skills, and that is why I was here.
Welcome. So with that, we have our Toastmaster today, Apur, with the theme Curiosity. Over to you, Toastmaster Apur, for the session.
Morning all. So curiosity has been a defining identity of mine. But before we get to that topic, I would like to start with the general evaluator and the tag team. So today's general evaluator will be Toastmaster Ujjwal.
So today as a general evaluator, I have the theme like 3 things I need to notice here. All about what is happening in that meeting first, and I will introduce the tag team, and in the end I will give the overall report of overall meeting, what's happened or how is the proceeding went. So I would like to request to call Toastmaster Aparna. She is taking the grammarian role as a
Timer first.
yeah, timer. So Sachin, come please.
So I'm taking the role of timer for today's meeting. As the timer, my role is to monitor the timings of the prepared speeches and the evaluation section, and also the table topic section. If I'm the prepared speaker, someone else will be noting my time, but I'll be noting the times for the evaluation section and the table topic section. The timings for the prepared speech section are 5 to 7 minutes. So I will be showing the green card. I'll bring up the green card. It's a green image on my phone. The green card at 5 minutes, the yellow card at 6 minutes, and the red card at 7 minutes. That's the prepared speeches. The evaluation section is from 2 to 3 minutes. Green at 2, yellow at 2.5, and red at 3. Table topic section 1 to 2 minutes. Green at 1, yellow at 1.5, and red at 2. For every section of the meeting, you have a 30-second grace time. So you can take up to 7.5, 3.5 and 2.5 minutes respectively. I'll be reporting out at the end of the meeting. Over to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you. That's it. So, as a part of the tag team, now I may request Toastmaster Toastmaster to come and tell me about our counter.
Thank you, Ujjwal. As a part of tech team and our daughter, I'll be responsible for taking all the crunch work who've been using from people like and something like that. And at the last, I will give you all the information about all the words which is being used by all the persons over here. Over to you, Ujjwal.
Thank you, Kapil. So now in the tag team, there is a grammarian, and today the most experienced grammarian, she is taking the grammarian role. Aparna, please come.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ujjwal. I am the grammarian for the day, and I will be looking at the incorrect usages of English language. If there are any incorrect pronunciations or incorrect usage or words that need to be switched with some other words, I will be looking at that. And other than that, I would also look at the good usages of words, phrases, etc. And that's about the grammarian.
Thank you, Toastmaster Aparna. So, as we have introduced all the tag team members, so now may I request TMOD Apu to come on stage and share more details of this meeting.
Yes, thank you, sir. Please have a seat. Yeah. So, morning people, our theme that we have decided for today is going to be curiosity. What's the camera? Oh, soften it, camera. Thank you. So, curiosity. Now I need notes. So let's talk about curiosity. When do we actually start getting all curious about the world? So there was a study done. Apparently, kids who are about 4 years old, they ask approximately a new question every 10 minutes. And over the course of 5 years of their actual kid life, they've asked about 40,000 questions about how the world works. Now, give me an idea, like how much do you think a normal human, an adult person asks per day?
Less than
half a question per day.
Less than 10 questions per day.
That's actually an overestimation. What was yours?
Half a question per day, so like one question in 2 days.
Normal humans ask about 4 questions in a day. And not the normally how you're doing. Not that. Like real questions that you need answers to want to know about. And that's a terrible... So somewhere down the line, something happens. But we'll get to that in a little while. Our first thing is, let's talk about childhood. Let's talk about curiosity, how it was built in me. One of my most recallable memories for me is basically my friend and I had just seen a cartoon on TV called Silver Surfer, and this was about a month before Ganpati Visarjan, right? So we decided that when everybody is just going to put the Ganpati in the sea, we are going to make a surfboard and we're going to swim out to the sea and do the Visarjan. And since we were kids, like we were like 9 years old, like okay, how do you do what we didn't know that there's something called as the plexiglass and other compound materials to make the surfboard. They're like wood floats, the surfboard would be made out of wood. So we went to the there was a scrap yard next to our house, we are building, and we go there and we get all these planks of wood, we try to rivet them into place, see how they float, and we actually made a garish but ridiculous surfboard per se. And when the time came for Ganpati Visarjan, none of the adults would allow us to even take this in their cars. When it came from the trash, we were touching it. So that was a story of mine, and see, that was my first attempt at civil engineering, if it can be called. Right, but it did given to me a thought process for my entire life. Like, hey, if I want something, I can actually make it. There's nothing stopping me, except adults, who can travel and take it to the place. So now I'm an adult, I can drive my own car and take such trashy stuff. I know. So now my question is, I would like to open the floor to you guys. Like, can any of you come up and talk about how curiosity or any memory from your childhoods that kind of sparks curiosity in your mind? Nobody? The objective of our Toastmasters Club is to come here and talk, man. Please, Toastmasters.
So about the curiosity, it's still with me, right? That as most of the people know that I love aviation. Means how much knowledge I in the free time, mostly every time I'm seeing the science or the logic behind this much big tons of planes to go in a air, to go in air and landing. So it's 4 to 5 years back, I was thinking, because at that time I was not, it's like I didn't know about what was the logic. So I thought that first ask to someone that how it happens. As we all know that it's all the basic of science and the flaps will go and because of that the plane will go. Actually, at that time I was asking to my parents that why is it happening? Why that big plane of planes, like big planes easily take off and land? Actually my father, he was a physics gold medalist from the Patna University. He just explained me everything that why this happens. And that's ended my curiosity about it. But still, if I see something new, then again question comes to my mind, why this happens. Yeah, Apo, back to you.
Thank you. So he's actually made an important point. We all ask, why does something happen? Right? So I remember how many here have opened up the remotes, dolls and cars when we were kids just to see how the inside, raise of hand. See, right? All of us got yelled at for destroying stuff by our parents, right? So coming to it, so curiosity, like when you have a remote control car or you would go to pujas and see that animatronic, like let's say Ganpati kind of moving around the Shiv Parvati kind of statue and all these animatronics. Today I entered the world of com science because I wanted to know how those robots work. Right? So curiosity initially really forms a big part of our life. And to get to the next part, we come to that. First is our speaker one of the day, Toastmaster Sachin. To introduce him, we have his evaluator, Toastmaster Francis.
So thank you, Toastmaster Apur. So as you know, this is the first section of our Toastmasters meeting, that is the prepared speech. So we have Toastmaster Sachin, who's here to give his first speech after a very long time. So the speech objective is to basically give a speech and make his entire speech rotate around a story. So storytelling is his major objective, and since it's been a very long time since he's given a speech, we're expecting it to be a really good speech because he also
should be the other way around, but okay, fine.
Okay. So yes, that's Toastmaster Sachin. The topic for what is the topic?
I've told in the speech.
So I'll call Toastmaster Apur to.
Thank you, Toastmaster Francis. So for Toastmaster Sachin, he's giving his level 3 speech 1. His topic is, will I go camping again? Toastmaster Sachin, will I go camping again?
Is the camera alright? Or timer? Yes. When I was 10 years old, my parents took me on this camping trip. Now, for any 10-year-old kid, roaming around in an open field, sleeping outside in a tent in the night and staying up way past bedtime would be their dream, right? But for me, as a 10-year-old kid whose nightmare was the sports hour at school, whose biggest competitive achievement was finishing a packet of chips in under 2 minutes, who had crossed the century mark in his weight that very year, how do you feel camping would look like? Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters and guests, As you can clearly see, I hated camping. But my parents insisted on going on this trip. So we took this 2-night, 3-day long trip to Munnar in Kerala. As we went on this trip, the problem started even before we got to the campsite. As we went up and up the hill in the car, my head kept burying deeper and deeper into a plastic bag because my motion sickness started kicking in. When I reached the top, my worst dreams came true. We couldn't reach the summit, so we had to hike for about 5 kilometers to reach the top. As we were climbing up, this trek would normally take about 2 hours. But I can't tell you guys how much it took because we called it quits halfway through because we couldn't make it to the top. We decided to go to a resort nearby. Since that day onwards, I wanted to give camping another shot sometime in the future. 2 years of all of us staying at home for 2020 and 2021 made the travel blogger in each one of us flourish, right? And I wanted to get on this action too. Also, unlike many people, during COVID I had actually lost weight. So I was ready to tackle camping headfirst. So I took a trip to Vagamon in Kerala. Again, it was a 2-night, 3-day trip. A lot of running around outdoors, sleeping outside in a tent and staying up way past bedtime. The only difference was this time I was actually excited to do it. The start of the trip was amazing. No plastic bags this time, thank you very much. When I reached the mountain, I raced up the top to the summit and I was the first one to get there. The view from the top was breathtaking. You know what else was breathtaking? The smell from the portable toilets that they had brought to the campsite. The air felt fresh. You know who was not fresh? It was me when I woke up in the morning sleeping on the hard floor on my tent. You felt like you were one with nature. Yeah, especially when the mosquitoes in the campsite were literally part of you now as they were gnawing at your skin the whole night. Clearly you can say I was back to that 10-year-old whining and complaining about camping. I was not looking forward to day 2. But day 2 was slightly different. It was near a more civilized area where the camping site was essentially a part of a homestay sort of situation. As we entered the campus, we were greeted by this massive guy. He was 4 inches taller than me. He was wearing this thick black coat and he had a huge mustache. His name was James, and James was the owner of this particular establishment. Now, looking past his intimidating appearance, James was a fascinating guy. He grew up in a town nearby called Tekadi. He grew up surrounded by nature, which inspired him to take up agriculture in his undergrad. After graduating, he worked for a large resort chain where he rose up the ranks really quickly and became the vice president of the company at the age of 40. When he was 50 years old, James decided that the corporate world was not for him and he took up early retirement. He spent the next 5 years building his retirement home, which is called Bethel Estate, which is where we were staying. It was a 15-acre farm. At the center of the farm was his house overlooking the magnificent mountains. He made this farm very self-sustainable. They had their own groundwater supply, they grew their own vegetables and fruits. They even had a vineyard where they made their own wine. Apart from his love for nature, James was a man of passion. The quirkiest thing that I had ever seen was when I went inside James's house, and in the center of his living room, he had a massive collection of antique weapons. Over 300 pieces of spears, guns, and daggers, over 2 centuries old. Now, after all this, a 60-year-old man who is well settled in life invites guests to his house every summer, not for the money, but just for the fact that he loves talking to people, hearing their stories, and sharing his. Now, when I went on this camping trip, I wanted to overcome a childhood experience which I never had. Now, Did this camping trip change my opinion about camping? No. Will I ever go camping again? Definitely not. However, I learned something far more important. I learned how to live a passionate and free life. Now, in our life, we undertake certain experiences with expectations in our mind. Sometimes these expectations are fulfilled. But a lot of times, while undergoing these experiences, we discover a part of ourselves which we never knew existed. What have you always wanted to do? Was it taking that childhood trip which you always wanted? Is it applying for your dream job? Or is it coming up here and delivering a Toastmaster speech? Give it a shot and you might find something you never looked for. Over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
I became curious about it by trying to improve on my communication, public speaking, and listening skills. So that's it. Thank you.
Welcome, Aditya. Thank you for waiting and welcome, Aditya. Again, so I have notes somewhere. Let's talk about curiosity on another level. So, curiosity is something that we always carry with ourselves. Some may have it a little diminished than the others, but let's talk about curiosity in adulthood. So, this is a story of how I went to and actually got my bike, the Royal Enfield Himalayan. The first time I saw this bike, I'm like, this thing will not run on the Indian roads, right? It's too big, it's too heavy, and it just looks completely out of place in the entire Indian marketscape. But a friend of mine wanted to go buy the Royal Enfield Classic 350, and I'm like, cool, I'll just go along with you and I'll also take a test ride. So we go there and he says like, sir, this is the new Royal Enfield Himalayan, will you ride? Take a test ride. I'm like, this is dumb. Why would I want to take a ride of this dumb bike? You know what, let's try it, let me see what it feels like. The curiosity aspect was there, like the people who made this, they spent crores of rupees designing this, manufacturing this, producing this, marketing it, some brain they would have used. Let me see what is there to give from their end. And so I got on the bike and I'm like, okay, this is a little heavy, I need to push it with my hand, get it out of the road. And then I start the bike and it gives that thump feeling underneath. Right, and that gives that entire macho feeling. Like, yeah, this feels nice. Okay, but I'm still on the 350 Classic. Okay, let's just take a quick ride around. So, the 350 Classic doesn't have that pull in it, right? It feels like you're driving in a truck, right? But the 400cc Royal Himalayan, there's a pull to it. So when you go throttle from 0 to 1, or let's say 100%, this is pull that happens, right? And that's when you feel like this bike is nice. And then I took it over the Indian pothole roads, and I'm like, okay, the suspension and all that stuff in this, it makes the ride quality a lot more fun. So I was only allowed about 2 kilometers of test drive. I drove for 5 kilometers. And I loved it so much that my bike right now is Royal Enfield Himalayan. So coming back to this curiosity, I would like one of you to come up and here and talk about how curiosity in your adult life made you experience something you might have never had. Anybody? Toastmaster?
I knew you would pull me up there. Okay, so
Toastmaster,
thank you, Toastmaster. So I had gone to this trip to Thailand in 2017, and there was this idea of getting on these parachuting rides that they have, banana boat rides that they have. I just wanted to try them out. And they also have this undersea photography kind of a thing wherein they put all that huge, I don't know what you call that suit that they put for you to walk under the sea, and all those kind of rides and all those things they had. So the parachuting was one thing that I was totally ready to try it out, and I got hooked on to the parachute, and they had this thing called dip and no dip. So when you, just before you put on the gear, you're asked whether you want a dip or a no dip. Now the dip is, they'll take you right up to the middle of the sea and then they just suddenly dip you into the water and pull you up. And I was totally against it. So I told him I don't want a dip. The guy takes me right up, dips me right into the water and pulls me up. That was so scary. That was so scary because I'm very scared of water, especially because a couple of times during my college days, I did my college in Goa. So we used to go partying on the beach and picnicking on the beach and all that stuff. And a couple of times I fell into the water and the sea water literally went above my head. So that was a very scary feeling. It felt like I was drowning because I don't know how to swim. So I always have this fear of water that if I just go a little bit under the water, I'm going to drown and die. So I have this fear of death in me when it comes to sea water. And when this guy did that, I was like furious at the guy. Then I came back on board, and after that was this undersea walk that they were supposed to do. I went 3 times. I mean, there was a small kid, a 5-year-old kid also who had gone, and he was enjoying everything. I went. There are a couple of steps, and after that you can't see the steps because it is all sea water. I went 3 steps down, the 4th step, the 5th step, the water came here. I said no, I went back up. I was like, I'm not doing this at any cost. The guy kept pushing me. He was like, I'm not going to return the money back to you. You keep the money. My life is more important to me. So it was very hilarious, but then there was this fear of water in me. I managed to do the parachuting thing, but after that I refused to totally do the sea water thing. And then we had the banana boat ride. That was also pretty good, little scary. I was very scared to do it because there was no support to hold on to or anything. They just had a rope. I mean, and the rope is certainly not supporting you in any way. And then the guy just goes rashly, everywhere. And then it was like a pretty scary ride. But I still took the courage and I went ahead and I did that, which was a pretty, it was an adrenaline rush wala feeling that I had. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. So from this you notice she had to go all the way out of her comfort zone and a different place to actually experience curiosity. It's a funny feeling, right? Kids who are like 4, 5, 6-year-olds, they naturally exhibit a deep sense of passion about the world. They want to know how the world works. And this is the thing that when we transition, especially during our teenage years to adulthood, we ask questions and we are told how the world works. We have to pass multiple exams and proving that yes, we know how the world works. Right? And what this does is it basically answers a lot of your basic questions of life. And then we get the feeling, yeah, we know everything. And curiosity slowly but surely dies. We'll get to that in a while. So to bring us to the next session, we have the table topic session. Everybody loves it. And we have Toastmasters Shashidhar, who is the topic master of the day. Welcome.
Thank you. What a wonderful day today, and the reason we are less in number is okay?
Yeah, it's louder.
The reason we are less in number because one is the weather, and then I was curious why not many people have turned up. So that curiosity led me to kind of give a thought, maybe because of curiosity, because the table topic session today is going to be all about curiosity, and they were not curious enough to be here. So thank you very much for that. So let me take you through the question what Toastmaster Apur asked in the beginning, which was how do we learn, right? How do we learn? And he said by asking questions. Was it 400 questions, Toastmaster Apur?
About 40,000 questions in about 8 years.
And that is not the only way you learn. Questions are not only the way you become curious, there are many other ways to learn also. And what do you think? How we are on the top of the food chain today? There are 3 very big reasons. One is from the primates, on the 4 legs and limbs, we got up and become bipeds. That was the first reason we are on the top of the food chain now. Second reason, any guesses? Fire. That's wonderful one, because fire gave us time. At the time of when we were the mammals and when we were the gorillas and all. So the kind of food you used to eat, you used to take to digest 8 hours for a day. So to find the energy to digest that food for 8 hours, you have to eat another 16 hours to do that. So 24 hours cycle is over. And accidentally we drop the food in the fire, the raw meat in the fire. and that helped save 6 to 7 hours of digesting food, which actually developed our frontal lobe, which also led to the most amazing thing what we have learned in the sense of evolution. Any guesses? Ujjwal?
Agriculture.
What?
Agriculture.
Sorry?
Growing crop.
No.
Observation, inference, and then acting on that.
That led to the language which is the basic ground for asking any question. The moment we develop languages, we became the storytellers. We started sharing our experiences. Don't go there, because there is always the tiger lying, lurking around in the foliage there. If you go there, you will die. So that experience shared in the tribe allowed the people to survive. And that's how the language developed, and that also gave us our modern social circumstances. It gave us society, it gave us neighborhoods, it also gave people to migrate to many places, and that's why we are on the top of the food chain. Why I'm telling all this? Because I was curious about how we have come here, right? So I started searching for it, and this is all the information which I came to be because of curiosity. And today's table topic is also about curiosity, because yesterday night, when I asked Toastmaster Atul, okay, you are the TMOD of the day, so what's the topic of the day? And he said curiosity. And that time I decided, let me also ask you some questions. So what is the first question which comes to mind from thousands and thousands of years of our civilization? What is the first question anybody asks? Any guesses?
What's the meaning of life?
What's it?
What's the meaning of life?
Exactly. Who am I? Is the question always comes. And then why am I here? What's the meaning of life? So that is on this background, let me invite some people for their sense of curiosity. By the way, curiosity is not the only way we learn. Just to clear the idea that the child does not only learn on curiosity, it also learns on a very important aspect which was developed because of the language, the frontal lobe, and that particular thing is called, any guesses? Mirroring. We also learn by observing. It is not only the curiosity. So let me come back to the topic and invite the first person, any volunteers. And it's all going to be about curiosity. I would ask you, what curiosity led to do what? What kind of experience you had? And I'm going to just a little bit more deeper into your psyche, because I'm curious about you. Let me know. So the word Disney said, when you're curious, you find a lot of interesting things to do. So, Toastmasters, first let us know what curiosity led you to learn something new, any experience. Over to you.
In my life, if I say, I had a lot of experience. Curiosity made me to explore so many things. The entire way. For example, let's take, I directed one movie, and I was too much curious about all the movies, how they build, how they go from pre-production to the last stage, the movie where it get released, how they use special effects, how they tell the story. That makes me curious. What happened one day, like it's been like 2017, I said, no, I want to direct a movie. What can be done? How can I do that? So I googled something, and I got to know you should be a good storyteller and be a visual storyteller. Just not a storyteller to speak something. You have to imagine every aspect of the scene and tell the audience how it can be better and how can it say, like, convince something. So that's how I started my storytelling. And afterwards, what happened? I went into a writer course where I understood like how to tell a story to understand and convey to the people. Afterwards, I took a master course from a renowned script writer. I forgot his name. No, sorry for that. But afterwards I understood like how to tell a story for something else. Then afterwards, I took a workshop in 2018 and I directed a movie. And recently I am creating another story, a script for the same, so that it might be going to get released in next 2 months or 3 months. I'm just preparing for that. Maybe I will next 3 months. There will be another short story from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmasters Shoply. That was wonderful. And mind you, I got many questions. So most of you will be here on the stage talking about curiosity. And let me also kind of give you the idea why Einstein was such a powerful person and a scientist, the greatest mind even today. We consider him the greatest. And he has said in his own words that I was passionately curious. So I'm going to invite Aparna later, not now. I have got a different question for you. I'm going to invite Toastmasters Sachin to share what curiosity or what kind of passion you are curious about and how did it lead to the things you over to Toastmasters Sachin.
So, timer, go ahead. This is related to my speech. As I said, as a kid, I was quite fat, and until COVID. So after I completed college in 2020, and then we had COVID. Until that point in time, I was still quite fat and bulky. One of the things that I've always wanted to do was reduce weight. Now, how to reduce weight is through dieting and exercise. During COVID, I got a lot of free time, so I decided, okay, let's do this. Let's give it one last shot and see if it works out before I start my career, I start working. So I started dieting and started exercising. Now, initially, the main objective of dieting and exercising was to lose weight. That was why I had started, and that was why I kept doing it for about 7 months. After 7 months, I had lost a lot of weight. I was down from about 120 kilos to about 85 kilos, lost 35 kgs. In this span of time, my main objective for exercising and dieting was to lose weight. I thought whenever I reached my target weight, which I had in 7 months, I would stop all this. But then my curiosity to try out new things. First I tried out long distance marathons, then I tried out sprinting, and now I'm currently into strength training. So my curiosity to explore and learn more has led me to develop a lifelong passion towards fitness, and that's how curiosity has really helped me in my life. Over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so curiosity is also about, not only about what questions I have with it, it's also about people. Who are you? So when I came into the room and I saw new faces and I reached out to certain friends, so I was curious, I wanted to know. So I met Sarthak today and I was quite curious about it, and I said, okay, and what do you do? And he's doing the second master's. My first master even I was not able to do. He's doing second master. Are you game for a question, Sarthak? If you are come over, I want to know from you, not about the people you are curious about. Can you talk about to us about the ideas you are curious about? Over to you, Sarthak.
Well, that is an interesting question, because he specifically said, what ideas interest you or what are you curious about? And I'm only 22 years old, so I spent most of my life in academia and as a student. So the questions that I think about during the day and during school and college are ideas about how does the world work and how you can sort of think about and push the boundaries and push the envelope to make the world a better place. And I'm sure Aditya can also agree with me when he thinks about questions in physics and mathematics, which entirely, if you think about it, curiosity and being curious is what makes us human. I think that's what separates us from all other living beings on this planet is our ability to constantly be curious and our ability to think and question. Ideas mostly that interest me are related to the world around me, which is my community, the economy I'm part of, and naturally the social sciences. So these are mostly the things that really make me most curious about, and also this sort of extends to broader questions that Sir mentioned earlier as who am I and what is my purpose here. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you very much for that. And I'm going to ask my fellow Bihari, Ujjwal, to come over here and talk about very interesting thing. When you have been curious, did it ever lead you to new possibilities? Over to you, Toastmaster.
First of all, thank you, Toastmaster Shashidhar sir, for this opportunity. Curious, as we all know that it will come first. Thing is like why. All the curiosity comes with why. What I think. Why and what happens next. And if sir has given me the question that in my life, what is the curiosity which led to me here, right? So,
led it to new possibilities.
New possibilities. Okay. So, yesterday only, I was in a trip with my office team, and there is one beautiful incident happened with me. There was full-on activity was going on. There were people who were doing boating and all, and there was some zip lining was also there in that resort. So I thought, let's try this. Max to max, what will happen? I will get failed. Fall down from the rope. Maximum, worst scenario. I took my courage, did all the preparation they have given, the belt and all, and I just went there, up at the top. So I just asked that guy who was doing everything, and he was giving the cap, and the person who is the main person and doing all the checkings and all. So I asked him, Bhaiya, I'm doing for the first time. I will not fall down, right? So he told, no man, nothing will happen. But the time when he gave me the cap and I told, and I kept, my leg was here and down nothing was there. I was about to fall. Then out of a sudden, my body reacted like, I was like back. I will not able to do. So someone from the behind told, Ujjwal, please close your eyes, jump. I did it. And it was like within few seconds, it feels me a pleasure, and it was a short zip line. And after that, when it's end, my situation was like my whole body was pounding. So that comes a new possibility that I can do more about this, and a new adventure I can do. Yeah, back to you, Toastmaster Shashidhar.
Thank you. Time check. How many I can take more?
I think we can go about 10 more minutes more.
10 more minutes, so divided by 2 minutes, 5 more. Everyone 5 minutes. We can have
A partner should be the next.
no, so I have already got, knocked on to 2 people definitely. But I also wanted to invite one of the guests to talk about the next session. Can you please, sir, I don't remember your name.
Ravi.
Ravi. Toastmaster Ravi, and it was such a pleasure to have you here. And since you said something about IIM Bangalore, right? You worked there?
I studied.
You studied there. So that is where I thought, okay, let me ask you a totally different question. Because our friend and mine, not our friend, but my I admire. His name is E.M. Forrester, and he put a very different perspective to curiosity. He says, and I'm going to read it now, curiosity is one of the lowest of the human facilities. You will have noticed in daily life that when people are inquisitive, they nearly always have bad memories and are usually stupid at the bottom. He had a different take about curiosity completely. So I'm going to ask you a question and want you to share your idea. The cure for boredom is curiosity. There is no cure for, the cure for boredom is curiosity, but there is no cure for curiosity. Do you think that the curiosity can be cured? You can stop being curious at all. Over to you. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Mr. Table Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, is there any cure for curiosity? When I was hearing all these speeches about references to curiosity, I was taken down a trip down memory lane. And this was way back when my son, who was with me, was an infant. Those days I used to have him sit on my lap and work on my computer. At that time, there was not as much of work from home as it is now. So most of the work I would be doing at that time would be some assignment, because I was, along with working, I was also studying at IIM Bangalore. So I would be doing some assignment, I would put him on my lap and I would work. And as everybody referring that kids are very curious. So his curious mind and his fingers would pluck out the keys from my keyboard. So it so happened that I had a laptop with a bunch of keys missing from it, because a curious child had pulled the keys out. Another observation that I had when he was a kid is I used to live those days in Indiranagar, and that was a very old house. It didn't have a tiled floor like this. It had those old-fashioned mosaic tiles, if you folks recollect. And those, some of the tiles had a small depression. It had just worn off and there was a depression. So when he used to crawl on his all fours, if you would come across the depression, he would always scratch something over there and then move on. Every time he would come across, he would scratch and go. So this thing is something that went through my mind when you asked me that question. Is there a cure for curiosity? I don't know whether there is a cure for curiosity, but there is always a challenge when you observe kids who are curious and trying to draw inferences as to what is it that is making them curious. Over to you, Mr. Tabletop.
Pleasure. And I'm going to ask now Aparna to come here first. And it is very interesting what you said about the flooring and other stuff, because I come from civil engineering background myself. I know talking about the mosaic flooring where the stones are taken out and there is a small depression there. So thank you. And I'm going to ask you a very question. You already talked about your paragliding and the scuba diving and everything stuff. But has curiosity ever led you to a situation where it brought excitement into your life? Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shashidhar. For this, I would like to get into my professional life. I'm basically a psychology major. I'm not an accounts major at all. But today I'm heading the accounts receivable team in my office. That's because I was very curious to learn something new. When I joined my company, I joined them as an operations manager. I had absolutely no idea about accounting and finance and all these journal entries and credit memos, credit notes, debit notes. All these things were something totally out of my syllabus. I never worked on them. But there was an opening that basically they had nobody taking care of those things, and I pitched in because there was one guy who was doing it single-handedly and it was getting out of his hands. And I had some free time, so I decided to pitch in. And suddenly I realized I was totally into it. And then I literally moved away from the operations that I was doing and I got full on into the finance side of it. And I managed to learn most of the things. Today I have a team of around 15 people and I'm heading the whole accounts receivable team, and now I've also started learning more about bank reconciliations and journal entries and things like that. So my curiosity has kept me going. It has been very exciting for me because every job, every company that I have ventured into or gotten into, it has always been a new role for me. So that is one thing that has kept me going. So I may not be a master of anything, but I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, that's fine, but I still manage to get along with it. Thank you.
Thank you, wonderful. Although I was not talking about professional excitement, I was thinking that you probably will let us know what kind of excitement it brought into your life. So professional life was not one of them. I was thinking about many other things that in the accounts page of what you're talking about. Anyway, but I have got only now two choices I wanted to have, and I let Francis and Apu decide who's going to come here, because I'm going to ask you a very interesting question. So either Francis or Apu, either one of you, who's going to be here? Francis. Wow, wonderful. So basically, Francis, curiosity is not such a bad thing. It also leads you sometimes to find someone who would you like to be life partner.
Dodge that bullet.
No, I've been asked this question multiple times in different ways.
By someone else.
By many people in this community.
So did curiosity let you to find your life partner? Over to you, Toastmasters.
Okay, that was another good try by Toastmaster Shashi. But as of now, the answer is no. I haven't found the right person yet. But moving on to my journey, I would consider my journey to be in phases. So I would consider one particular part of my journey where I need to focus on a particular thing that I'm doing, and that requires 100% of my concentration, energy, and my focus. So phases where I have to study, I wouldn't actually, want to distract myself into other kind of activities and spend a lot of other time on other activities. But on phases where I consider myself to be relaxed for a while, it could be mostly working or job. I would consider meeting a lot of new people actually, and not only within my team, but I would definitely move to the other corners of the office to get to know a lot of people. Once you get to know a lot of people, you learn from them. That's when you actually find out the true person you are and what kind of people you enjoy hanging out with. So I consider myself to be a person who is taking time to explore the world, understand the different kinds of people around me, so that once I meet the right person, I can, not waste much of my time and then quickly decide. And I'm definitely very interested and excited to be moving on to another phase of my life where I'll be meeting thousands of new people. So I consider that to be a phase where I can actually meet a lot of people and hopefully, the answer to your question, probably find the right person.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Francis. So wonderfully avoided the question I asked. Yes. So thank you very much for that. So before so with this, I want to end this Toastmaster session.
We have time for one more. We have time.
You have time for one more. So, you wanted to come and speak. Okay.
I'm anyway team mod. I anyway have to speak on this topic.
Since that question was not answered, Apu will answer it.
Okay, so time for one more. So let me invite Apu in any case, because he was my choice to talk about. And Toastmaster Apu, can you tell me a situation or a moment or kind of experience where being curious it led to certain risky situations? Over to you, Toastmaster Apu.
Okay, so this is actually a pretty prompt question because I have a situation for you exactly about a month ago. So we had gone to this on a trek, and there was just about 7 of us, including my dog. And so this place it's called, I can't pronounce the name, it's that weird. So there's a Ganga temple there, apparently, and we thought like, okay, let's go there, and it was supposed to be an easy trek, right? We had enough water with us, we had enough food with us, and the weather outlook was supposed to be cloudy. So good time, good, everything's ready for our trek and everything. So we go to the place, we park our car, we go up the mountain, and again, this is nice, this is nice. And so in Karnataka, the way you go on treks is, when you're on the trails, you're supposed to follow certain arrow marks or certain markers on the ground, right? Or it'll be there somewhere. You just have to be observant enough to notice these things. Because this is not a well-trod-on trek, some people have either removed it or anyway, the marks got erased and we lost our way. And so still we somehow like you can see this thing and we made our way to the top as high as we could go. And then on the way back, we found two paths leading towards the exit. Right? One path looked a bit more interesting, and the first one was the one we had taken to come up. We're like, you know what? We've taken the first one, let us take the second one. Let us see what happens. And so what happened was the group split up. So there were three of us who went this way with Meadows, and the rest of the three people went the first path. Like, no, we'll take a smaller, shorter path. So it was me and two of my friends and our dog, and we were going down this path, and in about 15 minutes we noticed this is no path. In fact, we had all sorts of thorny vines and stuff like that falling on our faces, and all of us came back with scratches, too many scratches to count, and we are just bleeding from all sorts of places. We are dehydrated. At 15-minute extra time, like just let's see what is here, took about one hour extra, and we had no water when we reached these guys back. We came in, we drank all their water, even my dog was all dehydrated. So that is what happens where curiosity actually kills the cat. Thank you.
Thank you, those are wonderful, because I was wondering about the table topic today, and I was waiting for somebody to come with that famous quote, curiosity kill the cat. And thank you very much for putting that. I was purposely avoiding this, and I'm also reminded about the experience what shared, the famous poetic line, the road less traveled. I took that one and he took that one. So with that...
it was less traveled for a reason.
so my final thoughts on this, that curiosity is the essence of human existence. And who am I? What am I? Everything. Where are we going? I don't know. I don't have any answer. I really don't know if you go next corner, what is there. But I want to find out. Thank you, Toastmasters.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shashidhar, for that amazing table topic session, and all of you guys gave brilliant speeches, and I was really hooked on every one of them. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of the speech where you have the evaluation and all that. Before then, I get to say my speech one more time. Give me a second, I have to pull that up. Let's talk about, one of the reasons why we speak about curiosity, mostly in a childhood innocent context, is because we see it die like sparks and embers of a dying firewood in the adults around us. Fixed mindsets and unchanging, stubborn, blunt. These are the words we generally associate with a lot of the adults we see around us, in the work environments, in family, in friends. Right? Why does this happen? And this is a part even I was curious about. When did the spark in people start dying? And before to ask about other people, I want to ask about this myself. Like, when did I see my spark sputtering out? And that's when I was recalled about a professor I had in college. Now you see, we are all from the same Indian education system probably. And we all have the rote learning, get the marks, pass kind of concepts in our entire system, right? It's built into us. So I took up comp science because I was interested in robotics and one day wanted to program my own R2D2, right? And I go to college and one of the first professors I meet, he's teaching us the C++, the language, and I'm like, cool, this is a good language to start off with. I already know a bit of it. This is even more interesting. I'll carry on with it. Here's this thing. I wanted to make my code easier, faster, and better. Right? And I would go up to my professor like, sir, this is how I'm doing stuff. but I think there's a better way to do it. I just don't understand it. I just, to this date, I remember his response. You're getting the output, nah, it's okay. And it burned into me, burned my spark out, basically. Because the people who I put as the pedestaled authority, teacher, master positions, if they don't care, why do I? And here's the sad part. For a big part of my life after that, I believe like, yeah, marks all that matters. Like, I got the output, I got my 5 and 5, I'm out. But that is not how I would like to live my life. But still, I would like to bring any one of you here to talk about when did you think in your life the spark of curiosity was dying out and you noticed it, flame out. Anybody? Ravi sir, Yeah.
When the spark died.
When you saw your spark or someone else's spark dying out.
Mr. MC, right? You're the MC. Okay. I find it a little curious, the setup in this meeting, because I'm so accustomed to a certain way Toastmasters meeting happen, but it's very interesting to see a lot of table topic sessions being interlaced among, because I saw you come and speak, I saw you call a couple of people come and speak. Then we had the table topic session, and then again get going at that. But yeah, coming back to this topic, what I can recollect is when I was working back 15 years ago, I had reached a particular stage. I was part of the corporate life. I had reached a particular stage where I had finished my courses with IMB, and I wanted to do some other stuff, because I was, one of the objectives of joining IMB was to learn something new. Curiosity is what makes you pursue learning, and that's what made me pursue learning. I did that, and when I went back into the corporate life, I realized that I was not learning anything new, and that's sort of that was simmering my curiosity flame, if I were to call that. And that's the reason why I decided that I think I've had enough of this corporate world, I need to do something else. And I just quit that. I didn't have anything in my mind at that point in time. I just quit. I said, let me quit and think about what I need to do. So that's what I could recollect when you asked me that question. Over to you, Toastmaster.
So, notice the similarity. We all, it's not as if the spark goes out one day and you next day you wake up and like, oh, it's not there, it's okay, I'll continue to live my life. It doesn't happen in a flash. It slowly dies, it simmers, it tries to come back, and it slowly dies when you do not answer its call. Right? So this is how curiosity dies amongst us adults. And before we move on to the next part, we have evaluation for Toastmaster Sachin's speech. His speech title was, when will I go camping again? And it will be evaluated by Toastmaster Francis.
A very good morning to all the Toastmasters once again. What a fantabulous speech was the one that was given by Toastmaster Sachin. Will I go camping once again? So, I would definitely consider it to be a really good speech, because he's a very experienced Toastmasters, and the techniques that he has actually got into his speech, especially the storytelling speech, is very, very amazing. It's like an advanced technique. So the way he started was, the takeoff was very smooth. I saw him narrate or project some kind of things that he would like to land with. So that's something that I really liked. The takeoff was really good, telling that he was actually very scared of treks and so on. And also he gave a bit about his health side, which prevented him from taking up challenge. So the takeoff part was really good. And also the landing was really good, because he gave us all a summary or some kind of takeaway from which you can actually learn something. So he took it off, he gave us a bit of the story which had the content, and finally he landed it with a great kind of a takeaway for all of us. So I really like the way you did that. So I don't want to go with the basic structure, basically the 5 aspects that I look into. I really want to get into the things that you're really good at, what you can improve and some of the challenges that I would like to give you. So something that I really found within you while you presented the speech was very intense. I could feel the sections that you really wanted to convey. You actually conveyed a lot more intensely than most of the other speakers who actually spoke. So intensity was something that I found very outstanding, and the speech throughout was completely your passion. You were trying to convey your passion. So it was very passionately done. So intensity and passion are the two words I would definitely like to put forward. Moving on, I would definitely tell that you really know how to use pauses. You use pauses really well in multiple instances, so that's something that I look out for whenever you give your speech next. Your gestures were good. I saw you using a variety of gestures right from the beginning till the end, and you used a good amount of stage space. I can see you moving to various sides of the stage, but coming to the points of improvement, I felt the movement was periodic. You kept moving to this side and this side periodically. So I would want you to use it more in an advanced way to probably define different stages of your speech, or different aspects that you can cover with the space. So you can just take a note of that. And some of the other things that I noticed was when you talk, right? You talk a little fast. So that leads to two separate problems. The first one is when you talk, the volume is high first, and as it comes to the end of the sentence, right, the volume decreases. That in turn leads to less clarity of your speech. So I know you use pauses and your speech is not very fast, but the sentence that you try to convey are sometimes squeezed in and are a bit fast. So if you try to reduce the speed in which you talk, I think you can do a really good job. And then a small challenge that I would like to give you is definitely to connect with the audience, put forward a question, take a quick suggestion from them. That way you can directly get to connect with them and give great thoughts and gain great thoughts from the others. So yeah, I'm out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rushing off the stage. Because he's been red.
That's the mountain call. I'm not doing it on purpose.
Yeah. So guys, thank you for a great evaluation session. I do agree with the periodic part. It was as if you're moving out of habit rather than, as you said, emphasizing on the point. Let's move on to the next part of the evaluation process. We'll have the general evaluator, Toastmaster Ujjwal, talking to us about the speech, the session in general. Yeah, come.
Thank you, Toastmaster, TMOD, Apur. So now let's come to a very interesting part, the evaluation. I think most of the people don't like the evaluation. Correct. So for the evaluation, I have a team of 3 members, which we normally call them as a tag team. So Toastmaster Sachin has taken the timer role. So may I request him to come on stage and tell all the timing.
For the role of the timer, I'm not going to go into everyone's timings. For the most part, everyone was within the time. I thought I'd exceed them, but thankfully I wasn't. Probably because I was too fast. Slow down next time. But we had a couple of table topic speakers who went over 2 minutes, but I don't think any of the speakers went over 2.5, which is sort of the cutoff. Another general observation that I had with the table topic speakers is you don't need to acknowledge the timer. The timer is just there to give you a signal. Now, you don't need to tell the timer that you've seen it or anything like that. And after 2 minutes, it's just protocol for the timer to hold the red card. It's not like the timer is telling you to get off stage. That's not the intent. So the timer is just following the protocol. You don't need to acknowledge the timer. You don't need to rush off the stage when it's done. Not pointing at Francis, but
you did.
Yeah.
So you don't need to rush off the stage when the timer is holding the red card. Anyway, with that being said, I hand it back over to you.
So for in a tag, now is the time for the counter to come on stage. Toastmaster Gabriel, who has used most of the arms and or the filler words.
And for the compliment. First time, Arthur Francis. He used louder. This is our counter. Like I started almost like 2 times. Previously when I started you were using a 6 to 7 times at a time. Apu are 6 times and end 2 times. Which one I have a specific words for you. It's that which I've used by like 3 times for no reason, only like couple of times, so 1 time, and I use like 8 times. Sachin, a gap of 5 seconds, accepted. I didn't find any cringe word or something like that. Aparna 3 times, and pretty, I think there is no reason to use that word for a couple of times, I think, like that. Without that, you can finish your sentence. Then Shashidhar, there was nothing for you. I use like 5 times and 1 time. Sarthak 5 times, and next is like last one is for me 8 times, and